So the New York Times is advising the Biden administration to create a reality or truth czar to make sure that information that gets disseminated is approved. Now, they claim they want it to be factual, truthful, but what they're really advocating is that it be approved speech. Yeah, I think we tried that, or it's definitely been tried in the past.
February the 21st, 1933. Our propaganda is considered to be exemplary, not just by the German press, but by the international press too. We have acquired so much expertise in this field during previous election campaigns that we can overcome our opponents. We frighten them, and they hardly dare utter a word. Now we will show what the apparatus can achieve if you know how to use it.
Very interesting. President Biden, in his inaugural address, called for unity. Why? In fact, apparently it was so moving, I don't know, I didn't watch it. Chris Wallace, over at Faux Pas News, formerly known as Fox News, said it was, quote, the greatest inaugural address he has ever heard, and he's been watching them since Kennedy. Okay. There have been a lot of great inaugural addresses, whether they were from presidential individuals that I agreed with, but there were memorable lines that you take away and you think, yeah, I get that. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. When John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, but rather ask what you can do for your country. When we think of the inaugural addresses by people like President Ronald Reagan talking about America as that shining city on a hill. When we think about the fact that Barack Obama, whether you like him or not, whether you agree with him or not, he was an incredibly charismatic, engaging individual. And when he was in his prime before he fell victim to syphilis or whatever it is that he's struggling with in old age, Bill Clinton could give a pretty good speech and, in some ways be very entertaining, despite the fact his policies were dreadful. That said, Donald J. Trump can amass a crowd like no one in political history. And Joe Biden had the greatest inaugural address, and then the news media wonders why that the vast majority of Americans, both left and right, Republican and conservative, liberal, progressive, hate and distrust the mainstream media. Why? Because it's not news, it's propaganda. And when Joe Biden said he wants unity, what he was really talking about was conformity. Whatever they set as the narrative, you must agree with it. See, you're not allowed to say that there was shenanigans or even fraud which took place during the 2020 election. Now look, whether or not you believe that there was enough to actually overturn an election, I'm not even arguing that point, but to say that there was none whatsoever, when really there was no investigation done. When you say, well, they did recounts, yeah, but recounting the ballots that you've already counted to say, yep, that's the total we came up with, is not the same as saying some of those ballots shouldn't be counted at all. They're fraudulent. They're not signed. They're not this. They came in after deadlines. They violated the law and accepting those. And for courts to simply say, we're not even going to look at that. We're not even going to take this case up. You have no merit, no cause. There was not actually a real investigation done. So we really don't know. Well, we know, but we don't know. And to even raise the question to be threatened with being censored, deplatformed, if the truth weighs on your side, then what do you care what somebody else might say? You have the truth. Lean on the truth. But when you start saying what we declare as the truth, and anything outside of that narrative not only is a lie, we're not even going to permit it to be visible anywhere. Case in point, you have the Prime Minister of Canada basically announcing now that just because something is true doesn't mean that it needs to be disseminated. Wait, what? You have media outlets, or I should say social media platforms now, they are purging not only speeches but actual events of history. There was a doctor giving testimony before Congress regarding how some of his findings are different than Dr. Fauci on the best way to proceed forward regarding the handling of coronavirus. And YouTube and other media platforms are actually taking it down. Not taking down the commentary about it, but they're actually taking down the actual footage from C-SPAN or wherever it was clipped from of that doctor before Congress giving testimony. Well, wait a minute. Whether you agree with the doctor or not, it is historical record that he was called before Congress and gave that testimony. See, what we have is a complete purging. We have outright censorship taking place, all in the name of fact-checking. So if we're going to create this reality czar, this truth czar, and we're going to try to spin this to the American people that this is a good thing because now we're only going to allow consistent, factual information to be disseminated. All right, then I got a couple of questions. Are you going to start with this guy, the renowned Dr. Anthony Fauci? Because after all, he's been all over the place on everything regarding the pandemic. First, he said, do not mask.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is.
He said what a lot of us are saying, that a mask gives you a false sense of security. That's really not a protection in a viral outbreak. Then all of a sudden, he got the new and improved script, and not only did he get on board with masking, and he wanted it mandated everywhere, why now we have to be double masked.
So if you have a physical covering with one layer, you put another layer on, it just makes common sense that it likely would be more effective. And that's the reason why you see people either double masking or doing a version of an N95.
Well, which is it, good doctor? Should you be fact-checked? Should you now be driven into the dustbin of history because you were giving out disinformation? You were wrong about vaccines. You told us very early in this pandemic it was going to be at least 2 years before we could have a real vaccine in place.
Is that since vaccines are given to normal individuals, what is paramount is safety and whether or not it works. So we'll do a phase 1 trial. We'll do it in a number of our centers, including our center at the NIH. That will take about 3 to 4 months. And then if successful, which I believe it will be, there's no reason to believe it won't be safe, we'll go into what's called a phase 2 trial. The phase 1 trial is 45 individuals. Phase 2 trials are hundreds, if not a couple of thousand individuals. It would take then about a year to a year and a half to be fully confident that we would have a vaccine that would be able to protect the American people.
And then Shazam, Batman, in less than 9 months, a vaccine that you helped create and hold the patent to is out, it's ready, and how dare anyone question the safety of it?
I hear a lot now when we made these announcements this past Monday and then 2 Mondays ago about some reticence of people. Well, did you rush this? Was this too fast? Is it really safe? And is it really efficacious? The process of the speed did not compromise at all safety, nor did it compromise scientific integrity. It was a reflection of the extraordinary scientific advances in these types of vaccines, which allowed us to do things in months that actually took years before.
Now you know that children are super spreaders of this virus. They're going to kill grandma. We were told that for months, and therefore, these schools have got to be closed. These are incubation places where the virus will just spread out of control. Close the schools, Fauci said.
I must say that if you are in a red area, state, city, or county, then you really better think carefully before you just jump into school. And the people who don't like my saying that should realize that the best way to get your school open is to get out of a red zone into a yellow zone, into a green zone. So if you want your schools to open, get your community level down.
But yet there were members of the scientific community screaming, no, 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 no. Not only are children pretty much immune for the most part to this virus, they really are not spreading it. Open the schools. And then Shazam, Batman, why Fauci said the same thing and made it sound like he's always said that.
We say it not being facetiously as a soundbite or anything, but, close the bars and keep the schools open. The default position should be to try as best as possible within reason to keep the children in school or to get them back to school.
And then, of course, it was Dr. Fauci who said, don't get together with families and celebrate Easter. Don't get together with family and celebrate Thanksgiving. Don't get together with family and celebrate Christmas. And now, what do you think he has to say about Super Bowl parties?
As much fun as it is to get together on a big Super Bowl party, now is not the time to do that.
Dr. Fauci, just a question. Can you explain to me why we should not gather to have a Super Bowl party?
Well, every time we do have something like this, there always is a spike, be it a holiday, Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving. As you mentioned, Super Bowl is a big deal.
Wait a minute. What did you just say? By gathering together like this, it could spike, and we have found that to be true with all of our holidays? We fact-checked you, Dr. Fauci, and we didn't just fact-check what you said. We fact-checked you by your own statement that you said, yeah, I was wrong. I thought that, the gathering together would lead to spiking, and actually it's gone down, and it's going to stay down.
I just think it's the natural course of plateauing. We see when you get off a holiday season, we were expecting that there may have been even more. Apparently not. We're going to come down and stay there.
So by applying the new Reality Czar and the fact-checking, at this point, should anyone listen to anything that Anthony Fauci, the fraud, has to say? Seriously. Then, of course, they have used what happened on Capitol Hill on January the 6th to talk about it was an invasion. An invasion? American citizens gathering in their capital city to have their voices heard. We call it the right to peaceful assembly. Over 1 million people gathered, about 100 or so got inside the Capitol. And we're calling that a riot. We're calling that an insurrection. And why we are being told that the President of the United States was behind it for amassing these kinds of people together. Liz Cheney managed to hang on to her chairmanship. And to be honest, this is just more proof that the Republicans left on Capitol Hill, without Donald Trump being in the White House, have zero backbone. If they can't push back on their own, they're certainly not going to stop the Biden agenda. And I don't know why Biden is just doing everything by decree of executive order. What, is he worried that Congress won't pass his stuff? All we have seen lately is that Congress is going to roll over and play dead to whatever Biden wants, because the narrative, the new truth is, well, we don't want to be seen as participating with Donald Trump in an insurrection, so please, President Joe, whatever you want, you can have it. But Joe's not even doing that. He's just signing executive orders. Liz Cheney saying that President Trump amassed this mob. First of all, I am not going to be lectured to on the so-called illegal behavior of a presidential administration by the daughter of a vice president who he himself is guilty of actual war crimes. Oh, I'm sorry. Did the video just skip? Let me say that again. Dick Cheney is guilty of war crimes. And talk about a guy, we talk a lot about Hunter Biden and how he has helped the Biden family personally profit from, shall we say, international investment deals. How much money did Dick Cheney personally, through Halliburton, make off the Gulf War, the war on terror? Yeah, George Bush lied us into a war. But because Donald Trump asked his supporters to come to Washington, and he said specifically, peacefully, make your voices heard, Liz Cheney wants to accuse him of insurrection. And in so doing, she then fuels this. Way to go, Liz. You empowered Mad Maxine Waters. Mad Maxine. The one that really wants to assemble mobs together, not to peacefully protest, but literally to inflict real damage, real pain on people associated with Donald Trump.
You'll see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station. You get out and you create a crowd, and you push back on them, and you tell them they're not welcome.
And now Maxine Waters not only wants the former president impeached for insurrection, she wants him charged with murder.
As a matter of fact, he absolutely should be charged with premeditated murder because of the lives that were lost with this invasion, with this insurrection.
Now, by her logic and by Liz Cheney's logic, here's what they're saying. Because Donald Trump protested the election, because Donald Trump felt that he had been robbed, been cheated, and was tweeting to that and giving speeches to that, it riled people up, it rallied them together, and even if he didn't directly say, hey, do this, he, with his rhetoric, made this happen. Okay? Then Maxine Waters, with her rhetoric, is now calling the former president a murderer, wants people to amass and to harass. So if these people start amassing and harassing, and if, heaven forbid, the former president and his family are hurt or worse, will Maxine face any charges? How about you, Liz Cheney? You're supporting this canard, this lie that because Trump basically went out like a basketball coach and fired up his team and said, come on, guys, we can do this, that's tantamount to an invasion? Why are these people not being deplatformed? Why is Mad Max allowed to continue to tweet even though she is calling for and accusing of murder? And then, of course, we have this. Yes, everybody's favorite dimly lit bulb, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Initially, I thought she was dangerous. I did. I was very concerned that her radical progressive ideals were going to be a be-all, end-all of the end of us. Now I realized she is just an absolutely stunning idiot. The way she talks, like, oh my gosh, I mean, like, for real, this almost like really happened to me. So she is now saying that these Capitol riots were absolutely threatening to her personal life. And she didn't just say it once. And that's why the hashtag AOC lied is starting to trend. No. She built this up. This is what she said a day or two after what happened on Capitol Hill.
The president, frankly, assisted by members of Congress, incited an attack on the United States Capitol. I do not know if I can even disclose the full details of that event due to security concerns, but I can tell you that I had a very close encounter where I thought I was going to die.
Okay, she wasn't sure for security reasons she could share the details. Well, then apparently she decided to go ahead and share them.
All of a sudden, I hear boom, 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 boom on my door. And then I hear these huge, violent bangs on my door, and then every door.
She hid inside a bathroom within her inner office.
Like this. Like I'm here, and the bathroom door starts going like this. Like the bathroom door is behind me, or rather in front of me, and I'm like this, and the door hinges right here. And I just hear, "Where is she? Where is she?" And this was the moment where I thought everything was over. I thought I was going to die.
And now the truth comes out. She wasn't there. That's right. She wasn't in the building when the rioters were marching through, when they were invading, when they were attacking, and this is all the hyperbole and the verbiage they use. She was across the street in another building under safe, secure lockdown. She wasn't hiding in her bathroom. She wasn't hiding in another staffer's office. She wasn't in the building. She lied. Can you say Jussie Smollett? You want to know where the discontent, the dissent of discourse gets fueled by? There are people who, many justifiably so, are angry that they feel they have been the victims of injustice and have not been treated fairly, that what has happened to them, what has happened to their people, has been glossed over, swept under a rug, etc., etc., etc. Understand that. But they don't call out members of their own who then lie and use over-the-top hyperbole and outright deception to try to paint themselves as victims and garner more support. And these white supremacists, these white privileged individuals, these MAGA Trump people, where is the black community as a whole coming out against what Jussie Smollett did? Because he actually hurt their cause. And now you have AOC doing the same thing. But of course, Mad Maxine goes on PMSNBC and defends AOC. She's a woman of color. She felt this way. Even if it didn't really happen, she felt this way. And then, of course, AOC went on to say in that same little Instagram post that she is also the victim of sexual assault. Can I just tell you right now, I flat out don't believe her. I think she likes to insert herself in everybody else's crisis and somehow take it over as hers. And there are no doubt dupes and minions that follow her, love her, and she can do no wrong. But her credibility at this point among any real thinking liberals and progressives, you've got to take a step back from her and take a look at this and go, oi. She lied. Is she going to be deplatformed for disseminating false information? Will Instagram take her down for spreading a lie? And that lie could have fired people up who want to defend her and will go out and hurt other people in a defense of her. So the New York Times wants a reality czar. Well, I think the New York Times and many of you need a reality check. Because what you're asking for is a brand new ministry of propaganda. And we now see that the mainstream media, working hand in hand with social media platforms, we're not being allowed anymore to disseminate both sides of the story. We're not allowed anymore to even share the full truth. We can only share the approved truth. And that, by definition, is propaganda. Hey, that's it for this rant. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like this, smack the bell, Click the word all to get notification of my next rant.